We are on lesson 3 of chapter 8, which we're going to use slopes and intercepts. First, we're going to use slope-intercept form to find slopes and y-intercepts. Then we're going to write slope-intercept form. Then we're going to solve a real-world problem. First, let's learn the concept of intercepts. On a graph, an intercept is when it crosses one of the axes. When it crosses the y-axis, making x 0, that's the y-intercept. When it crosses the x-axis, making y 0, that's the x-intercept. So the x-intercept is the x value in a linear equation when y equals 0, and y-intercept is the y value in a linear equation when x equals 0. So in this case, the y-intercept is 2 because that's what it is when x is 0, and the x-intercept is 2 because that's what it is when y is 0. So now we're going to learn what a slope-intercept form equation is, and we're going to apply a couple things we've done already. We've learned about slope already, and now we just learned about the y-intercept. Slope-intercept form equation is y equals the slope, or m, times x, plus b, the y-intercept. So remember that m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. So for example here with this graph, we have y equals, we have a -1 slope here, times x, plus 2 for the y-intercept. So that's how you would write this equation. So now we're going to find some intercepts and the slope. So it tells us to find the x-intercept, the y-intercept, and the slope of the following linear equations. So first we need to find the x-intercept, and if you remember, that's when y equals 0. So we could plug in 0 for y and then solve for x. So we have 3 times x plus 4 times 0, which is 0, equaling 12. So since this doesn't matter, we can cross that off. Then we could divide by 3 on both sides. So x equals 4. As I write that out, I would have a value for 4 for x and a 0 for y, because that's what an x-intercept is when y equals 0. Let's erase my work and try this again. Now for the y-intercept. So the y-intercept is when x equals 0. So if you write this out, x is 0, so 3 times 0, which is 0, plus 4y equals 12. So we divide by 4 here to find y. So y equals 3. So if I write that as the intercept, it would be 0 for x, 3 for y. Now we need to find the slope. Well, the slope, if you remember in our slope-intercept form equation, is what is ever being multiplied times x when y is by itself. So that's what we need to do. We need to get y by itself. So the first step in getting y by itself would be to move this x over on the right side of the equal sign. So if we write this now, we have 4y equals, and it's really good to have the x part first, so we could do -3x. Then we have a positive 12, so plus 12. Now to get y by itself, we can divide everything by 4. So therefore y equals, and that's slope-intercept form here, -3/4 times x plus 3. And remember, slope-intercept form equation is whatever's being multiplied times x is our slope. So here's what's being multiplied times x, -3/4. So if we write our answer, we say m for slope equals -3/4. So there we found our x-intercept, our y-intercept, and the slope. These next ones won't take so long. We have y equals x minus 6. Well, the x-intercept is when y equals 0, so we have 0 equals x minus 6. We can add 6 to both sides, and that makes our x-intercept equal 6. So we can write that out. When x is 6, y is 0. So erase our work and try that again. Y-intercept. So y-intercept is when x equals 0. So y equals 0 for x minus 6. 0 minus 6 is -6. So our y-intercept would be when x is 0. So 0, -6. And now our slope. Well, this is actually slope-intercept form already. We have something being multiplied times x. That something is 1 because there's nothing in front of it, minus the intercept. So the slope then would just be 1. So m equals 1. Now we have 8x equaling 5y. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite this so y is on the left side and x is on the right side. So 5y equals 8x. If we're going to find the x-intercept then, we're going to make y equal 0. So 5 times 0, which is 0, equals 8x. And then we can divide both sides by 8, but that's not going to make any difference because this is 0. So x equals 0 when y equals 0. So my coordinate point will actually be 0, 0. Let's try that same thing for y, but I think it's going to be the same answer. So we plug in 0 for x here to find the y-intercept. 5y equals 8 times 0, which is 0. 0 divided by 5 is still going to be 0. So the y-intercept is also at 0. So 0 for x, 0 for y. Now let's find that slope. So we need to get y by itself to turn this into slope-intercept form. So we could divide both sides by 5. Therefore, y equals 8 over 5x. And since the y-intercept is 0, we could say plus 0, but we don't really need that. That's why you don't see a y-intercept here. The slope then is being multiplied times x, and that's 8 over 5. So we'll say m equals 8 over 5. Let's look at this one now. We have 3x plus 7y equals 9. The x-intercept is when y equals 0, so we have 3x plus 0 equals 9, or just 3x equals 9. Divide both sides by 3. So the x-intercept is going to equal 3. So x is 3 when y is 0. Let's solve for the y-intercept then when x is 0. So we have 3 times 0, which is 0. So plus 7y, or 7y, equals 9. Divide both sides by 7. So we have y equals 9 over 7. We'll just leave it as that fraction. So when x is 0, y is 9 over 7. Now let's find that slope. So we can find that slope when it's in slope-intercept form, meaning the y is by itself. Well, we can get the y by itself by subtracting this 3x. So we have 7y equals, let's do the x first again, so negative 3x plus 9. Then we can divide by 7 again. So we have y equals negative 3 over 7x plus 9 over 7. And in slope-intercept form, this is the slope, whatever is being multiplied times x. So we would say m for slope equals negative 3 over 7. Now we can write in slope-intercept form. So it tells us to write an equation of a line that passes through each pair of points in slope-intercept form. We have negative 3 and 1, and 2 and negative 1. Some students find this a little bit difficult. If you follow these 3 steps, it actually becomes pretty manageable. First, you need to find the slope like we did in a previous lesson, rise over run. Then we could plug that slope in for m here. Then we could plug in a coordinate point, either one of them, and solve for b. So step 1, let's find that slope. So we have rise over run. Rise is the change in y. We go from 1 down to negative 1. That's a down 2, so negative 2 for our rise. And that's going to be over the run, which is the change in x. So from negative 3 to positive 2, that's going up 5. So here's our slope, negative 2 over 5. So now step 2 is to plug that slope into y equals mx plus b. So y equals negative 2 over 5 times x plus b. Now we can plug in a coordinate point, either negative 3 and 1 or 2 and negative 1. Let's try the negative 3 and 1. So 1 for y equals negative 2/5 times x, which is negative 3, plus b. Well, if we do our multiplication here, negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6, so we have positive 6 over 5. So 1 equals positive 6 over 5 plus b. Then we can subtract 6 over 5. 1 minus 6 over 5. That's going to be negative 1/5. So b then would equal negative 1/5. So now that we've solved for the slope, which is negative 2/5, and the b, we can write our equation because it tells us to write the equation. So we would say y equals the slope, which is negative 2/5, times x plus negative 1/5 or minus 1/5. So we found the slope, we found the b, and we plugged them in. Let's try this next one. We have 3 and 4, and we have 4 and 6. So step 1 is to find that slope, the rise over run. The rise is from 4 to 6, so that's 2. The run is from 3 to 4, so that's only 1. Simplify that into 2. So the slope is 2. So now let's plug that slope in for m. We have y equals 2 times x, which is the slope, plus b. We could plug in a point. Let's use 3 and 4. So 4 for y equals 2 times x, which is 3, plus b. So 4 equals 6 plus b, subtract 6. So b is going to equal -2. So now we have our slope, we have our b. Let's write our equation with both of those. Y equals 2 times x plus -2 or -2. So here's our two equations that we came up with using these steps. Now time for a real-world problem. It says the cash register deducts $2.50 from a $25 Java Cafe gift card for every medium coffee that the customer buys. The linear equation y equals -2.5x plus 25 represents the number of dollars y on the gift card after x medium coffees have been purchased. Graph the equation and explain the meaning of the slope and the y-intercept. So we see that x is measured in coffees, and y is measured in dollars. The most that's going to have is 25. So why don't we count by fives here? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Then we probably could count by ones for coffee. So whenever you do slope-intercept form, you could plug in different numbers for x and get your answer. So when x equals 0, we can find our y-intercept here. When x is 0, -250 times 0 is 0, plus 25 is 25. So when x is 0, y is 25. Well, when x is 1, what's that going to be? -250 times 1 is -2.5, plus 25 is going to be 22.5, which is right here. Let's do one more, then we can graph our line. So when you have two coffees, it'd be -250 times 2 would be -5 plus 25. That would be y equaling 20. So when x is 2, y is 20. So now that we plotted a few points, we actually can plot this out, since it's a linear equation, following the line. So now we actually can figure out how many coffees it would take to run out of money. It would be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 coffees that you would run out of money. And now we need to explain the meaning of the slope and the y-intercept. Well, the slope, we see that it's -2.5. So for every coffee you buy, whenever x goes up by 1, you take away $2.50. And you see that this was going down because it was a negative. And then the y-intercept would be, we have when x is 0, we have $25 on the card. Because that's what the y-intercept is. What is y when x is 0? When I haven't bought any coffees yet, how many dollars do I have? So that would be the meaning of the y-intercept.